Okay, so today there's really not much new content, so I'm going to do one little review problem actually from yesterday. But before I do that, I'll talk about what the difference is or what the new lesson is today. Today is really talking about this idea of the law of large numbers and the law of small numbers. And we've already talked about this. This is really the idea of probability at play. So on here, what it means is that if you were to repeat any probability very many times, like I might be tossing a coin, in the long run, it's going to approach a very specific value. Or in this case, if you're talking about a number of observations drawn, as you increase that, the mean is going to eventually actually approach the true mean, okay, of that population. So when we think about Linda selling cars, for example, from yesterday, when we think about Linda selling cars, she sold on average 1.1 car. Well, in the beginning, it might be very variable. Like one weekend, she could do totally awful. The next weekend, she could really kill it and sell three cars. So the mean could be bouncing kind of all over the place. But in the long run, if you're talking about the whole career or the whole time that she's been working, it's going to approach that very consistent 1.1 as the mean. This is how casinos bank on the money that they make from you because they know that even though you're there in the short run and anything could happen, you could win right away and be on top. They know in the long run, because they are doing it very many times at every game, they're playing those games over and over and over, they are taking in a consistent amount of money. Okay, so that's the law of large numbers. The thing that people think is that there's this law of small numbers, like, oh, okay, well, right now, I'm going to toss this coin 10 times, and it's probably going to be about a 50-50 chance here, because we know that coins are 50-50 chance of getting, let's say, a heads. Well, a lot of times it's actually when you have a small number of trials, it's going to be very variable. So there's actually a pretty good chance of, getting 80% heads is what this says here. But that's something that you need to be aware of is that the law of large numbers, that's how probability works. The law of small numbers, not it actually does not work. That's not a thing. Okay. That's a myth. That's why it says here. It does say how large is a large enough number to be like to qualify as the law of large numbers, and that completely depends on the scenario. When you're talking about gambling, you're going to need a lot more data and a lot more trials. But that again, that's going to be something that very much varies depending on what you're looking at or your outcome. Okay, I'm going to pop back to the lesson to show the one little thing that I have in here from yesterday as well. I'm going to go through this example. So let me switch my video over really quick. This is another mean and standard deviation. This is definitely something that will be covered a lot in this class. I'm only going to calculate right now the mean for this one. So I'm going to take the mean for this distribution right here for the cars sold and compute this one more time so that you can see it. So this one right here, we have 0 cars sold 30% of the time, plus one car sold 40% of the time, plus 2 cars sold 20% of the time, plus 3 cars sold 10% of the time. That is how we would calculate the mean. So this is a review of yesterday, but I wanted to show it one more time here. So when I ask you for a problem about mean, this is what you're doing here. And then you would actually calculate that as a 1.1. That's that 1.1 that I was just talking about in the example. So if you need any more on this mean and standard deviation, then you can go ahead and look back at yesterday's lesson, but that's all I have for you today.